Hello, I'm David Thornburg, President and CEO of the Committee of 70, the longstanding civic organization that helps to educate voters and engage voters and advocate for better government, better politics here in Philadelphia. Welcome. We have a primary election coming up on May 21st. We're going to be electing city council candidates, judges, city commissioners, and other citywide offices. We've long believed that running for office is and should be a job interview. And it gives a chance for candidates to be interviewed, be grilled by their constituents from far and wide. And to facilitate that, we have decided to conduct sort of a starter series of job interviews with city council candidates. And that's what we're doing here today. There are about 50 candidates overall for city council, so it's a challenge to try to keep them all straight for us and for you. But we're going to do our best to interview a number of them. We offered the chance to all city council candidates to join us, limited by the number of slots that we have. So we're going to be interviewing one after the other in 15-minute segments to give you a chance to figure out who they are and what they're up to, and help you make your picks on May 21st. So without any further wind-up, let's get started with our first interview. Drew Murray is a Republican running for city council at large, lives in Center City. He's a regional sales manager with O'Brien Business Systems. He's been an active citizen in his neighborhood association as a board member of the Center City District, and this is his first campaign for a seat on council. So welcome, Drew.
Thank you, David. Thank you for having me.
All right. I told Drew we're going to moderate these lightly, so most of the time is going to be yours, I think, as it should be. But from time to time, I'll try to drop in a question. We'll go about 15 minutes. So let me start with the first and most basic and most fundamental. Drew, why are you running?
Sure. So just to give a little bit of background on me, I was actually born in Villanova, Pennsylvania. I still consider myself a Philadelphian, like most people in the greater Philadelphia area. I attended St. Joseph's Prep, and that's kind of what brought me to the city. And when you attend St. Joe's Prep, which is an all-boys school, they teach you to live your life as a man for others. And I've always taken that to heart. And I live every day trying to help other people. And to that end, I've always been involved in my local civic association. For the past 8 years, I've been a board member of the Logan Square Neighborhood Association, which is the community that surrounds the Benjamin Franklin Parkway. And for the past 4 years, I've been president of that organization. And a lot of people have told me what a great job they feel that I've done. A lot of people have asked me to run, said, you know, you've done a great job with the civic. In Philadelphia, the civic associations, they have more of a role than most civics, than in other cities, I should say. They're a registered community organization. You are truly like a mayor of your little area of the city of Philadelphia. So a lot of people ask me to run. I feel that I have done a great job helping the people in my community. And the reason I want to run for Philadelphia City Council at large is because I want to help people now at a greater level all over the city of Philadelphia, not just in my district, which is 5. I want to help people around the entire city of Philadelphia. So that is at its core why I want to run. I want to help people all around the city of Philadelphia.
Say a little bit more on specifics beyond just your desire to help people.
Sure. Well, if you want to go through specific issues, one of the biggest issues I have heard is the communities, the incredible development that is happening in the city, but people are being pushed out of their homes because of higher taxes. And I want to continue the development in the communities in Philadelphia. I think it can be great, you know, when these communities get better, businesses come to those communities, empty lots are built upon. But how do we keep the people in those communities who have been there for 10, 20, 30 years? They have made the communities great, so we need to have programs to keep them in the communities. Philadelphia has a horrible problem with assessing their properties. We did AVI about 5-6 years ago, and that was supposed to create an actual value of our parcels, of our properties. And we continue to reassess, and we continue to have problems with reassessing. I want to look at the assessment of properties and let it be done the way it should be done by the market. When a house is sold, when a parcel is sold, that is the market value. We don't need to continue to reassess. And from there going forward, the property should only increase by a certain cost of living every year. That way, if your neighbor's house goes up an incredible amount when it's sold, that doesn't have to affect your house. And that will help people stay in those communities because they won't be pushed out by their tax bill going up 10-15% every year, which over a 5-year period is almost going to double their taxes. So that's one program that I'd like to see. The market should determine the value of houses, and after that determination, the cost of the taxes should only go up by the cost of living or some other factor thereof.
Some would say that's a good problem to have, because if we were talking about declining assessments over time and people were watching the value of their houses decline, they might feel differently
Yes,
about the
yes,
whole thing.
yes, but the issue is with the higher taxes. In a lot of communities where people can't afford, where they're on a fixed income or elderly, it's very difficult for them to keep up with those higher taxes.
Okay, so that's issue one, is dealing with the tax assessment issue.
Mhm.
What else do you got on your platform?
So the other issues people ask me about, I call them the 3 S's. It's soda tax, sanctuary city, and safe injection sites. So I'll tackle one at a time. The soda tax, I am 100% for what the soda tax brings, meaning universal pre-K and the rebuild program. I'm also the president of a local park, the Friends of Cox Park, that is part of the rebuild program. So I'm 100% for what the soda tax brings. I'm not in favor of the tax itself. That tax should come from a broader base and not a specific industry. So I'm opposed to the soda tax. Our sanctuary city policy, I believe we need to work with the federal government and not against them. I believe on a national level, we absolutely need immigration reform. I'd like to see the federal government make the path to citizenship easier. The city of Philadelphia is just like our country, is a city of immigrants. We're all either the child, grandchild, great grandchild of immigrants. Many of us are immigrants ourselves, but we should not be working against the federal government. So I'm against our sanctuary city policies.
Someone said we all either came over on a boat or a plane. It's just a question of when.
Exactly, absolutely. I'm of Irish Catholic descent, and it was my great grandparents who came over here. And and I'm not unique, obviously. So, uh, and safe injection sites. So that's why I call it the 3 S's. I hear a lot of people talking about safe injection sites. I believe addiction is absolutely a disease. We need to get funding both at a state, federal, and also municipal level to help these people. But safe injection sites, number one, enables the users. It's telling the users that it's okay to do these drugs. I understand the harm reduction. I understand wanting to help these people and to stop an overdose, but enabling addicts does not help them in the long run. They're still killing themselves every time they put a needle inside, whether it's an overdose immediately, God forbid, or if it's just over time they are putting poison into their body. And the second reason I am so opposed to safe injection sites is because of the communities that they're in. I am the president of a local neighborhood association and RCO. And when I talk to people in my community, even some people who are for these harm reduction sites, uh, they believe it's a good idea in someone else's neighborhood. No one wants it in their own neighborhood. So anyone that I've talked to that said they're for it, as soon as I ask them, okay, are you for it? If it's where I live, if there's one on the Benjamin Franklin Parkway, and they're not. It's not good for our neighborhoods. It's not good for our children. It creates a very unsafe situation. So I'm against the safe injection sites as
Okay,
well.
so you gave us a good overview of where you stand on a
Hmm.
couple of core
Sure.
issues. I have to go to a question for any Republican running for city council this time around, which is, unless things change dramatically in a way that we can't yet foresee, there will be either 2 or 3 Republicans serving on the 17-person city
Yes.
council. So how do you make a difference? How do you play your cards if you're dealing with that kind of a lopsided
Sure.
majority
That's
or
a great
minority
question. Yeah,
status?
you're not going to bring legislation, and you're not going to get with 3 votes. You're not going to get that legislation passed. So it's about developing relationships. I truly believe whether you're a Democrat or you're a Republican, we all want the same things. We want good schools for our children. We want good jobs. We want a safe city to live in. It's just the only difference is what is the path to get there. So whether you're Democrat or Republican, you got to sit down, you got to talk. You need to compromise. Oftentimes, the answer to get to those ends is somewhere in the middle. So just because you're not necessarily going to have the votes as a Republican, it doesn't mean you cannot make a huge difference. You can bring things in legislatively. You can work with your colleagues to get them to pass. They're all reasonable.
Let me use that as a chance to
Mhm.
sort of pivot
Sure,
to the next set of questions, which is uh, what have you done?
sure,
Tangible accomplishments that have benefited your community. In particular, can you describe a situation where you were in that, let's say, minority status, where you were representing maybe a neighborhood or a set of interests that were quite different from the prevailing crowd, and you were able to sort of swing the decision
sure.
towards your point of view.
Sure. So I'm the president of the Friends of Cox Park, and I'm also the president of the Logan Square Neighborhood Association. I can't say I'm ever in the minority as president of Logan Square Neighborhood Association, but if you've ever been in an RCO meeting or a civic association meeting, they can be a little crazy, and people have to come together. One of the big things that we deal with in the RCO at the RCO level are zoning issues. Developers come, if they need a variance, they are looking for a letter of non-opposition from us. So Logan Square Neighborhood Association, we have a good reputation of working with developers. So what typically happens, a developer will come, they'll show us a project, and we want to work with developers, and we want to get that project to a level where our community is comfortable with it and where we see it benefiting our community. Oftentimes that doesn't happen the first go around. So developer comes in, we'll see a project. It's about compromise. It's about, okay, we might not like certain aspects of the project, but what can you do, number one, to change it? What can you do to make it less impactful, both on a construction level and on a long-term level of what this project is going to do to our community? And we are in Center City. These are big projects like the Comcast Tower, projects like Riverwalk on the river. These that are very impactful to people in the community, both long-term and short-term. So it's about sitting down, compromising, developing contracts with these developers, and also bringing the community together. You walk into these meetings, there are oftentimes people on both sides saying they love the project, it's going to be great for our community, while other people are saying this is going to be impactful for me, this is going to be a project that is built for 4 years and it's going to affect my quality of living. So it's about bringing those people together, figuring out compromises, talking, number one. I think that is a huge thing that we do
Right.
not do on a federal level, that's for sure right now. And on a municipal level, we need to sit down, discuss, and compromise and get to a solution that works for the greater good.
So let me just drill into that a little bit
Sure.
further, because I know you've been active in your civic
Mhm.
association, the Friends of Cox Park. Tell me a particular story about a particular accomplishment, not just a generality, but
Okay.
something that you made happen that you're proud of and that you would project into your city council career.
Sure. I'll go to the Friends of Cox Park. When I first became president, the reason I became president was it's a great park. It's 50 years old, but it's never been renovated, and it is out of date. It is unsafe, and this was, God, almost 8 years ago. And so we went in as a group of young parents and wanted to renovate the park. And we thought it was great. We had a lot of momentum. We were working with Parks and Recreation, and a group of neighbors who really did not want to see that park renovated came out and just drew a line in the sand and said, we don't want this park renovated, and in fact, we're gonna designate it for historic designation with the City of Philadelphia Historical Commission, so it can't be renovated. And it was, it was a neighborhood disagreement for sure. And
Nothing like them.
oh, it is. It was. I mean, and this was in the newspapers. It's a small little park, but it got a lot of attention. And I'm proud to say that, and this was a long process. This not only was my being president of Friends of Cox Park, it went into my being president of Logan Square Neighborhood Association, because it falls under that umbrella as well. And I'm proud to say that we got to the point where we came up with a plan, a conceptual plan, that even those who were originally opposed to the renovation of this park actually really liked. And I was able to bring people together to sit down, figure out what is best, work with architects, work with the designers, sit down with the community, and we came up with a compromise. We came up with something that did work for everyone. And if you were there at the very beginning, the meetings 8 years ago, you would have thought these people are never going to be able to sit down at a table together ever again. And now we're to the point we're still trying to get the park renovated because of funding reasons, but we're all basically on the same page. There's still some details to work out, but
Right.
that is something that I feel that I really had a big part in, both as president of Friends of Cox Park and the president of the Logan Square Neighborhood Association, to bring everyone together and figure out a compromise.
Got it. So we just have a couple of minutes, but I want you to talk about things that we're concerned about,
Sure.
which is that there seems to be a general sense around Philadelphia that City Hall's broken.
Sure.
And that means not just the people that work in that building, but the political process that puts those people in that building. So talk about that. We've put out some thoughts called Philadelphia Resolution 1 about how to fix our politics and fix City Hall. But what are your thoughts?
Sure. Another issue that comes up is councilmanic prerogative, and that's something I've heard a lot.
So what do we do about it?
That's a really tough decision, because let's say I am one of 3 Republicans as city council at large. I'm one of 7 of 17. So it's going to be very hard to convince the 10 district council people to end that tradition. And it's not legislative.
Councilmanic prerogative really doesn't affect at-large council people.
Well, it affects the entire city, and right. Actually, so I would say it does affect the entire city. So it affects all of us. And so how do you fix that? Number one, I think the 7 at large must take a stand and state that councilmanic prerogative needs to end. And I think voters need to really look closely and demand from their council people who they are electing that this tradition has to end. We need, so there's 17. So that means you need a few district people to come forward and say that they will end the tradition. And there are a few people running now who will say that they are against it. So I think we need to listen to people who are saying they're against it. And if you really want it to end, you need to demand it of your district council person, right. Whether it's at the voting booth or for those that are uncontested. Unfortunately, you need to demand it of them face to face.
Yep. Good. We've got to put a wrap on this, but
okay.
Drew, thank you for
joining us.
Thank
you very much.
Best of luck to you. And I know you're telling me you have 2 daughters at home that don't see you very much.
Yes.
So my suggestion is get them out on the campaign trail.
That's right. Thank you very much.
Okay. That about wraps it up here at the Committee of 70. I am David Thornburg. Special thanks to the Thomas Gelton Harrison Foundation that has helped fund these interviews. Encourage all of you to take a look at the Committee of 70's voter guide, which you can get to by one of 2 ways. One is you can go to our website at 70.org. That's the word 70. Also, you can download our We Vote app from the App Store, however you get your apps, which puts in your hand an entire suite of voter information and education tools. So, and of course, get out to the polls, make a plan for voting on May 21st. Thanks for joining us, and thanks again to you, Drew.
Thank you.
All right.
All right.
I wasn't too painful.
No,
okay.
Not bad.